Everyone wants success until success sends the bill, and when that bill arrives, it is not paid in talent, it is not paid in luck, it is not paid in connections or timing or the perfect circumstances you have been waiting for. It is paid in something far more expensive. It is paid in pain, in silence. In the long, invisible stretch of time where no one is watching, no one is clapping, and nothing is working. That is where the price of success is charged. And that is where most people quietly walk away. Listen carefully to what I am about to tell you, because this is not motivation designed to make you feel good for 20 minutes. This is a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. A truth that is uncomfortable, a truth that is cold, and a truth that, if you are willing to sit with it long enough, will change the way you understand everything. The truth is this: success does not belong to the most talented people. It does not belong to the most intelligent. It does not belong to the most gifted, the most inspired, or the most passionate. Success belongs to the people who endure, the people who stay, the people who keep moving long after the feeling of moving has left them. Think about the people you admire, the ones whose discipline looks effortless from the outside, the ones who seem to carry a quiet, unshakable strength. You look at what they have built, and you feel something. Admiration, maybe even a small, honest sting of envy. But what you are seeing is the end of a story. You are not seeing the middle. You are not seeing the years of invisible suffering that forged what you admire. You are not seeing the nights when they had nothing left, the mornings they got up anyway, the seasons when they made no progress at all and continued. That middle part, that long, dark, unrewarded middle part, that is where success is actually built. Not in the highlight, not in the breakthrough moment, in the middle, in the grind that no one photographs, in the struggle that no one posts about, in the quiet, grueling, unglamorous act of simply not stopping. Most people will never experience what that middle feels like, not because they are weak by nature, but because they have been trained carefully and consistently to avoid discomfort. Modern life is engineered around escape. If you feel bored, there is a screen. If you feel lonely, there is a feed. If you feel anxious, there is a distraction. If you feel the slow burn of difficulty, there is always an easier direction to turn. And so, most people turn. Not dramatically, not with a grand announcement. They simply drift, slowly, quietly, away from the hard thing, away from the discipline, away from the version of themselves that would have required endurance to become. And this is the addiction no one talks about. The addiction to comfort. The addiction to relief. The constant low-grade escape from anything that creates pressure. It is not a violent addiction. It is soft. It is subtle. It is the addiction of choosing to rest when you should push, of choosing entertainment when you should focus, of choosing the feeling of ease over the process of growth. And it kills potential more efficiently than failure ever could, because at least failure means you tried. Comfort means you never really started. The people who escape discomfort do not always look like they are failing. Many of them look perfectly fine, functional, reasonable. They have a life, they have a routine. But somewhere, deep underneath the surface of their ordinary days, there is a version of themselves they abandoned, a commitment they walked away from, a dream they let go of quietly, piece by piece, until it no longer hurt to look at. That is not peace. That is surrender dressed as acceptance. Now I want you to understand something else. Something that is rarely said plainly. Most people do not quit all at once. They do not stand up and declare that they are done. They quit in small, invisible moments. They quit when they check their phone instead of doing the work. They quit when they sleep in instead of showing up. They quit when they tell themselves they will start again next week, next month, after things settle down. And those small quits accumulate, silently. Until one day, the gap between who they are and who they intended to become is so wide, they stop looking across it. This is why endurance is rare. Not because it requires superhuman ability, but because it requires something most people are not willing to trade. It requires the willingness to feel bad and continue anyway. To feel tired and continue. To feel uncertain and continue. To feel like nothing is working, like the effort is not proportional to the result, like the progress is invisible and maybe even imaginary, and continue. Endurance is the decision to stay in the fire long enough to be changed by it, rather than escaping it long enough to remain exactly who you were. And that is the core of what I need you to understand. Endurance is not about being unaffected by difficulty. It is not about being numb to pain or immune to doubt. The people who endure are not people who feel nothing. They are people who feel everything and stay anyway. They feel the exhaustion. They feel the loneliness of a path that not everyone around them understands. They feel the slow agony of growth that cannot be rushed. They feel the weight of consistency when motivation has long since disappeared. And they stay. Not because it is easy, because they have decided that what is waiting on the other side of the suffering is worth the suffering. This is what separates endurance from stubbornness. Stubbornness is staying without direction. Endurance is staying with purpose. It is the quiet, controlled, almost ruthless commitment to a destination that you have chosen, even when every feeling you have is telling you to turn back. It is discipline operating without the fuel of emotion. Because emotions are temporary, discipline is a structure, and when the emotion disappears, which it always does, the structure remains, and the structure is what carries you. Let me describe something to you. Imagine two people who start the same journey at the same time. Same starting point, same goal, similar abilities. In the beginning, they both feel the energy of a new start, the clarity of fresh intention, the momentum of the early days when everything feels possible and the commitment feels easy. They are equal for a while, but then the difficulty arrives. It always does. Progress slows. The results stop coming as quickly. The days begin to feel repetitive. The effort begins to feel thankless. The path begins to feel longer than it initially appeared. And this is the moment. This exact moment. This is where their stories begin to diverge. The first person begins to look for relief. They lower the standard slightly, just temporarily. They skip a day, then two. They begin to negotiate with themselves. They tell themselves they deserve rest, that they have earned a break, that the timeline can shift. And each time they negotiate, the cost of continuing rises. Because they have now established a pattern. The pattern that difficulty is a signal to slow down. And once that pattern is established, it is very hard to unlearn. That pain is the true test, not the dramatic setback, not the public failure, the private, persistent, unheroic pain of continuing when nothing feels certain. And what I want you to understand is this. That pain is not a signal that something is wrong. It is a signal that something is real. The discomfort you feel in the middle of a genuine transformation is not an emergency. It is evidence. Evidence that you are not taking the easy path. Evidence that you are doing something that most people are not willing to do. The pain of endurance is the sensation of becoming. This is what builds mental toughness, not the avoidance of hard things, the repeated encounter with hard things. Every time you stay when you want to leave, you build something. Every time you execute when you do not feel like it, you build something. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build something. And what you are building is not just a skill or a result. You are building an identity, the identity of someone who does not quit. And once that identity is established, the work gets easier. Not because the work changes, because you change. Because you have proven to yourself, through repeated action, that you are the kind of person who endures. And that proof is more powerful than any motivation you could ever consume. Understand this clearly. Motivation is weather. It comes and goes. It is influenced by circumstances outside your control. You cannot build a life on motivation. You cannot build a career on inspiration. You cannot build anything lasting on a feeling. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable. What is reliable is structure, process, the non-negotiable commitment to showing up regardless of the internal climate. This is what discipline actually means, not the absence of struggle. The presence of action despite struggle, not the removal of doubt. The continuation of effort alongside doubt. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you intend to become. And endurance is the decision to keep walking that bridge, even when you cannot see the other side. The people who succeed are not the most talented people in the room. They are often not the most intelligent, the most educated, or the most naturally gifted. They are the ones who refuse to stop. They are the ones who absorbed every setback without being consumed by it. Who experienced every failure without being permanently defined by it. Who felt every wave of doubt, exhaustion, and confusion and woke up the next morning and continued. They are the ones who stayed in the fire long enough to stop being burned by it. And that quality, that singular, difficult, irreplaceable quality is available to every human being who chooses it. The question is never whether you are capable of endurance. You are. Every person reading these words is capable of more than they currently believe. The question is whether you are willing to feel bad and continue, to feel slow and continue, to feel unseen, unrecognized, and uncertain and continue. That willingness is the door. Everything you want to become is on the other side of it. And it will not be comfortable. It will not be fast. It will not always feel meaningful in the moment. But it will be real. And one day, looking back across the distance of everything you stayed through, you will understand something that cannot be taught any other way. Success is not given to the most talented. It is not given at all. It is built by the ones who endure. If this truth speaks to something in you, if you feel somewhere underneath the words, the quiet recognition of your own capacity for endurance, then carry it forward. Not as a feeling, as a decision, as a daily, non-negotiable act of staying. Comment below, I will endure. Not as a performance, as a promise to the version of yourself that is still becoming.